Spiritual Narcissism. How they bait you and how you can protect yourself. Welcome to today's topic, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Coach Tobias Forst, founder of Achilles Life Coaching, decade-long recipient of narcissistic abuse, and I've saved myself from it. And I will support you on your journey to your personal freedom. So regarding the structure of today's video, with the topic of spiritual narcissism, we will go through 4 different points. Point number 1, a concrete example from my life. Point number 2, the analysis and the search for the intentions behind various aspects of this example. Number 3, why does spiritual narcissism have an effect on you so far? And number 4, your takeaways. So let's dive right into it. The example is the following. A few years back, I was at a baptism of a child of a few very close friends, and we went to a church, or a group of 10, 12 people. And in this church, among the congregation, there were 2 or 3 other groups with children to be baptized. So 3 or 4 kids to be baptized. This happened at the very beginning of the church ceremony, followed by a sequence of gospel songs. And it was a very, very pleasant experience. And when you now hear my voice, I guess that the word angelic is not exactly at number 1 or number 38 when it comes to you attributing anything to my voice. But still, I was part of the singing group, all of them, with full steam ahead. And it was such a pleasant and emotionally opening experience that no eyes remained dry that moment. So then, after a time when a calm and emotionally open silence set in, the Reverend stepped aside and brought in a guest speaker. And this guest speaker was well dressed, appeared well mannered at first, was increasing, reducing, pace changing in between, going up and down at the front, in front of the crowd, the congregation, with very precise gestures, good voice modulation, clear facial expressions. Everything was on point, highly charismatic. And while all of us were sitting there, completely emotionally open, still drinking up the internal dopamine that was released and released and released, intently listening to the guest speaker there, he came up with a hammer of a message that he just pushed into the congregation there. If you defy the words of the Reverend, you defy God. And we were in silence thinking, what? And he kept on hammering home that point, because the real factor behind it was the number of the congregation kept, I was only there once in my life, kept decreasing, or had kept decreasing over the past few months, and hence also money. Money was less, and this is a problem, more of a problem to some people than to others. So what we felt was immediate uneasiness, a queasy feeling in the stomach area. Something inside me triggered fight mode. I felt the temperature in my lower arms and the upper half of my head increase. And at that point in time, narcissism didn't even have a name in my life. So it was something needs to change. I need to change something. And we all, amongst our group, started looking at each other. I looked at the parents of the boy that was baptized, and we all exchanged looks, and it was their decision, politely their decision, to to make up the minds for the entire group, because it was basically their home turf there. And they decided, thankfully enough, that we all, in the middle of the ceremony, get up and leave. Leave the well-dressed dancing monkey up there with his message and the "Oh, holier than thou, reverend." So we left. That's the example, ladies and gentlemen. Now let's analyze it and dig for deeper meanings and intentions. Step by step. The singing. In the context of the entirety of the example that you now are aware of, it was clear love bombing. It was aimed at lowering the collective defenses of the people, opening them up emotionally, to the point where we were literally crying tears of joy. It was that experience was something else. And the intent was to lower our cognition level, our capacity for critical thinking, in order to make us much more susceptible to any kind of manipulation and messaging. So, enter the guest speaker. He is guilty of triangulation, or the Reverend, moreover, is guilty of triangulation. Both of them are, because the Reverend alone didn't do it. He needed to bring on a sidekick. And that sidekick, he had quite the voice, quite the words, and quite the presence. And apparently both of them are of the same opinion. They are of the opinion that him being an authority and the Reverend being an even higher authority, with all of us blind sheep down there, that this man is to be much more respected by the congregation than he apparently so far is. According to whose judgment, we do not know. So, while he was speaking, partially in bordering on angry mode, wandering, grand gestures, pointing, staring, he presses in the message that he wants to deliver, that all of us were supposed to just suck up. Now we come to that message. Remember the words, ladies and gents. If you defy the words of the Reverend, you defy God. All right. What a moron. What a moron. These people were hijacking religion. Imagine that. This has nothing to do with religion. They are cheap hijackers. Dressed in the clothing that seems appropriate. But they're all in, these two individuals were all in for themselves and themselves alone. And rest assured, they would have betrayed one another if it only ever served them one more moment. So back to the message, the defy and defying the Reverend, defying God. It's a two-sided coin that all of us, and I include you now, imagine you were in the same church, and we're all supposed to eat that very same coin, that two-sided coin. And it's precisely two sides, not one without the other. The two-sided coin contains the following message. That guy over there, Mr. Reverend Supreme, apparently has a dedicated line to the Lord himself. Behold. And the flip side is, and you don't. You don't have a connection up there, only he does. So you shall believe, thou shalt believe, that thou needeth him. What a bunch of bogus. I will come to that later at the end of the video, why that is. So it is obviously very grandiose narcissistic behavior. It contains a ton of gaslighting, of the attempt to manipulate perceptions of reality. And it came across as Oh, you dumb people there, all of us apparently, you would be so close to the source, but you're too dim-witted to see it. That was the core of the message. Now let's go to the effect of that message on us. We're excluding the dancing monkey and the unctuously, solemnly nodding Mr. Wannabe at the back of that stage up there. How did this affect us and the rest of the congregation? Cognitive dissonance, ladies and gentlemen, cognitive dissonance, widespread all over, to varying degrees depending on the individual, and another factor I will come to in a moment. If you were to paint those thought bubbles that you see in comics, you could see in other people there, depending how much of a regular they were in this congregation, that they were actually questioning themselves. Oh, he probably has a point. Oh darn, I don't know, maybe he's right. Maybe I'm part of the mistake here. These were the thoughts that you can see on some people's faces. I was looking around, I was baffled. And there is one thing, one of the takeaways we were going to move to right this point of the video, because it suits us better here. Important for you to realize is that conditioning, gaslighting, manipulating you works better, more effective against you, the longer you are exposed to said manipulation and conditioning and gaslighting. It's a process. The effectiveness has a correlation with time. Then, eye contact among our group after the "if you defy the words blah blah" of the dancing clown there. We were searching for mutual support. You can see this in groups, even among your circle, wherever you look, when people are insecure, and we were very insecure that moment. We were looking for recognition of a reality check that we were not 100% capable of on an individual basis that very moment. Am I the only one who sees it? Okay, he gets it. Okay, she sees it as well, so it's not just me. Reality check versus cognitive dissonance, the attempt to dissolve a cognitive dissonance. This is normal. This is normal. If the frame is not tight enough, if your perspective and you being grounded in reality, in knowing what is and what isn't, then this is quite normal. Last but not least, when it comes to analysis and intent, ladies and gentlemen, setting boundaries. We got up and we left. I suggest you do the very same when you are exposed to or find yourself in the face of spiritual narcissism. They want to play metaphorical chess with you, and you refuse to sit down, or if you sat down, you can choose to get up and leave at any point. They might not like it, they won't like it that you refuse to play, but it is your right to simply not play. Point number 3. Why does spiritual narcissism work against you? Why has it worked against you so far? Why has it been so effective against you so far? Maybe because you're searching for a group to belong to. It's in our nature. This is very normal. It gets a bit more problematic if the social tribe of 3 people, your parents and yourself back then, if this social tribe was a bad role model, toxic mother or toxic father, or both of them. And now you're looking for something that is familiar. Not that is better, but that which is familiar. this is the template, the search template that we use, at least for a time until we learn better. We're looking for familiar. And that toxicity is what many people in this congregation found. And that is what might attract you to your individual personal space of where you are exposed to spiritual narcissism. This is something that you must answer for yourself, of course, because I'm not in your shoes. But it gets even more complicated if you actually feel you need this particular group. And you start on a very small scale here, there, and there to not be true to yourself and to betray your own values and attitudes in order to avoid being socially ostracized and kicked out, because you really feel you need it. So, one more thing when it comes to its effectiveness against you so far. Love bombing makes us emotionally open up. And in many cases, the process of emotionally opening up comes with letting our guard down. This is not necessarily a correlation that has to remain so. I can be emotionally open. I have trained myself to be capable of being emotionally open, all the while the radar systems within me are on maximum alert. This is how I could discover the occasional covert narcissists that were hiding pretty well. And in such moments, I could mentally pinpoint, there you are. I see you now. While my eyes were moist from the emotion I was experiencing that moment. But the reaction in this very moment by him or her was what I so far had lacked as a clue to discover them for who they and what they actually were. So you might still be affected, or you might still be susceptible to love bombing in that way, in that sense, that it opens you up emotionally, and then they can push down your throat the manipulative message. Now, last but not least, ladies and gents, your takeaways. Mental point of origin. How does it affect you? Is this behavior that you are experiencing by the person, the spiritual narcissist, is this action aimed at convincing you to act out action A that you would have otherwise not taken? Or is it aimed at you not taking action B that you would have otherwise taken? How does it affect you? Is it supposed to make you feel? Is it supposed to make you feel happy, sad, angry, disappointed, shameful? Is it aimed at constructively supporting you or invalidating you, whichever it is? Qualify the behavior of the people that socially interact with you. Moreover, religious leaders, from my point of view, are supposed to be life coaches, offering life advice, offering something for the betterment of the group present. They are not supposed to be liars and cheats donning the regalia of the certain setting and just playing pretend. They are using and literally abusing a system, in that case religion. Their behavior has nothing to do with religion. Religion is aimed at a social group organizing amongst themselves so we can all interact in a peaceful manner. It is an organizational tool. Lived out religion by people. And guys like these, the solemn nodder and the dancing clown, they're hijacking a system like this. They are fake as F. They should be life coaches, not life roaches. And whatever, ladies and gentlemen, whatever you believe in, whoever you believe in, nobody can take that away from you, for one. Two, you have your very own connection to that which is divine to you. And you do not need a human wannabe conduit to establish that connection for you. You can have constructive helpers, yes, but the ones who say sine qua non, that without which not, the essential ingredient, they would be the essential ingredient. Oh, F them. No. Curate your own group, your own set of like-minded people who are here to support you and stand side by side. Good mental Spartans. Shield next to shield next to shield. Enjoy and live your own connection to that which is divine to you. And be your own hero. Be your own heroine. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.